sometime this week. So welcome again, everyone. My name is Megan. I'm the Manager of Public Affairs and Communications here at Journey Center for Safety and Healing. Thank you all for being here for our first of two Domestic Violence Awareness Month 2023 trainings. Today, we're going to be talking about how to help a loved one. With that, if at any point I'm monitoring the chat, so if you have questions, if you have comments, you have concerns, feel free to put those in the chat. This is a webinar or resource for you to really know how to help someone, maybe a friend, a loved one, an aunt, an uncle who has experienced or who has experienced domestic violence, and really give you all some tools to know what to say, what not to say. With that, we are here. We're Journey Center for Safety and Healing. We work with folks who've experienced domestic violence or child abuse at any point in their lifetime. We really want folks to know that they deserve a safe, healthy relationship, whether someone is still in the relationship, whether someone's doing kind of a back and forth, someone's been out of an unhealthy relationship for a while. We are here to kind of meet them on their journey, regardless of what that looks like. With that being said, we are going to be talking about domestic violence today. We're keeping it at a high level and we're not going to really break it down. We're really going to talk more about how to help, what to say. But if at any point you need to take a breather, you need to turn your sound off, you need to leave the webinar, that is okay. I would not be doing my job as an advocate if I did not remind you all to take care of yourselves. Not only is it a gloomy October rainy days, this can be a tough subject sometimes. So I just want to acknowledge that. Take care of yourselves during this webinar and after this webinar. Today, this is kind of what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a very, very brief overview of domestic violence. What does that look like? What does it mean? And what are some warning signs? We're then kind of going to jump into understanding abuse, a victim's perspective, and then spend the majority of our time today talking about how to help. What does that look like? How to start a conversation? And what are some things that we can say to a loved one who is maybe experiencing an abusive relationship? With that, what is domestic violence, right? What does that look like? We know, and we hear the statistic, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men will experience some form of domestic violence in their lifetime. What I think is so important about that statistic is that is severe physical violence. That doesn't necessarily take into consideration emotional abuse, financial abuse, those sorts of things. What is also really important to recognize is that females aged 16 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of domestic violence. You all will hear me today probably use he as the abuser and she as the victim. That is simply for clarity's sake. Domestic violence can and does impact anyone, regardless of gender, gender expression, sexual orientation, race, culture, ethnicity, right? So it's really, really important that we acknowledge that, but I want to say that I will be using that simply for clarity. So what is domestic violence? What does that look like? Domestic violence at its core is about power and control. It is when one partner makes choices, decisions, take actions to gain and maintain that power and control over this person, right, that they are supposed to love and care about. What we hear often is, oh, well, it's just an anger management issue. Oh, well, my partner got angry and that's why they put their hands on me. Domestic violence is a choice that someone is making. And it's really, really important that we acknowledge that. Domestic violence is not an anger management issue. People who make the choice to abuse are already very good at managing their anger, right? Someone who is abusing their partner is not typically yelling at their boss. They're not fighting the guy at the gas station. They're not taking their anger out on their coworker. What they're doing is they're waiting until they get home to take this, quote, anger out, right, on this person that they're supposed to love and care about. Now, you're allowed to fight, you're allowed to disagree, but you're not allowed to abuse your partner. The other myth that's so important that we combat, and we'll talk about this in a little more detail later on, is that the victim can just walk away, right? We hear it all the time. Well, if it was me, I would just leave. It was really that bad, just leave, right? Why doesn't she just leave? There are a lot of reasons that people make the choice to stay in an abusive relationship. What we do know is that leaving is the most dangerous time. So while we might think, just leave, it's not as easy. Within the first 3 months, And then the first year, the risk for lethality, the risk for severe violence increases. So it's not as easy as just leave. When we're talking about types of abuse, I think it's important that we're looking at these and we're talking about those red flags, those warning signs. So you all might hear spiritual abuse or psychological abuse. Those absolutely occur, but we have chosen to kind of categorize them as verbal and emotional abuse, physical abuse, digital abuse, sexual abuse, and financial abuse. So let's break those down. What is verbal and emotional abuse? What does that look like? It is any non-physical behavior an abusive partner says or does that manipulates or controls a victim's feelings, behaviors that make them afraid, that can cause harm. So this can be name calling, put downs. It can be constant criticism, yelling, screaming, tone of voice. It can be certain swear words or swearing at a partner. It can be controlling what a partner wears, how they dress, makeup, hair, etc. Any sort of outward appearance, right? Megan, you're with me now, so you need to dress more feminine or less feminine for XYZ. It can be constant monitoring where their partner goes, who they talk to, stalking behaviors, popping up at work, popping up at girls' happy hour. Oh, I was in the neighborhood and I just wanted to come by and say hello. Isolation from friends or family. It can be body shaming, gaslighting behaviors, kind of crazy making, right? Telling their partner, well, I wouldn't have had to put my hands on you, or I wouldn't have had to yell at you if you hadn't XYZ, right? I can be the most confident, self-assured person in the world, but if someone tells me I'm dumb, I'm stupid enough times, at some point, I'm probably going to start to believe it. Physical abuse. Physical abuse is any unwanted or intentional contact with a body, with an object, by the abuser towards a victim within that abuser's control. It doesn't have to leave a bruise or mark. Physical abuse, I always say, is like the hitting, pushing, and. So it's hitting, pushing, kicking, hair pulling, biting, and blocking entrances. You're not going to leave this room until you do what I want you to do. You're not going to leave this car until you say what I want you to say. It can be choking or strangulation, throwing objects, reckless driving, not allowing someone to physically leave. And it's really important we have those and conversations, because so often we hear, oh, well, my partner didn't put their hands on me, so it's not really domestic violence. Well, no, it can still be domestic violence. Maybe my partner's hit me before, or they punched beside the wall. That's still physical abuse because it's intimidation as a form of control by a body, by an object. Sexual abuse, right? I think a lot of times we think of sexual abuse as rape, as forced sex. Yes, it absolutely is, but it's also ignoring someone's feelings or boundaries, unwanted kissing, touching, controlling or disrupting access to birth control, making a partner perform certain sex acts. It could be coercive behaviors. Well, Megan, if you don't sleep with me, then I'm going to go XYZ. Well, I cheated on you because you wouldn't do whatever, right? Demanding or forcing sex acts when someone is sick, someone's not feeling well, cheating, threatening to cheat. It could be forcing someone to send photos. It could be not allowing a victim to become pregnant, or not allowing a victim to into pregnancy, right? It is sexual behavior. So I think it's so important. It's sex, forced sex, and, right, not respecting a victim's boundaries. When we're talking about financial abuse is really hard to see sometimes, but it also is a huge factor as to why people stay. There was a recent study by Free From that said, I think the number was 98 or 99% of victims had experienced some form of financial abuse, right? This might look like not allowing someone to work, selling or destroying property, forcing a partner to pay for everything, maybe withholding insurance or access to bank accounts, not allowing a partner to get a job, or getting them fired, right? Constant calls, constant badgering that a boss is just like, we can't do this anymore. This is too disruptive. Maybe my partner and I are getting ready to move in together. And my partner says, well, Megan, your credit's really bad, so let's put the lease in my name. Great. except what happens when the police are called or who's going to have to leave that house. May not this have been, Megan, let's build up your credit. So we put the lease in my name, but they're still going to pay the bills, right? But they don't. And now whose credit is ruined, right? It can be withholding supplies or other necessary items. And then digital abuse, right? This is the one that I would say is hardest to keep up with because technology is always changing. But I want to be clear that digital abuse is the misuse of technology. It is not the fault of the technology. It is an abusive person, an abuser misusing that technology. So I'm sure there are parents on this webinar and you have a tracking app that you can see where your kids are at for safety, and you use it for safety. But an abusive partner might say, hey, Megan, why are you downtown? I thought you were working from home today. And how did they know, right? Stalking on social media, tracking locations, spreading rumors or sharing information online, logging into devices or social media without permission, forcing a partner to share passwords, monitoring who their partner is friends with, their followers on social media, sending unwanted pictures, calls, texts, constant check-ins. I had a victim one time when I was teaching our DV education classes who she had to answer the phone. She would have to get up and leave class because her partner was FaceTiming her to see where you are, who you're with, right? Constantly checking and using or misusing, that technology against a partner to gain and maintain, right, that power and control. And so what does this look like? How might you all know that someone is experiencing an unhealthy or abusive relationship? This might look like your friends saying that, I really want to hang out, but my partner doesn't really like when I come to your house. My partner doesn't really like that I play volleyball every week. They don't really like that it's a bunch of dudes on the team. So I think I'm just going to step back for now, right? I'll come back in a couple months, but right now I'm going to step back from this activity. I'm going to step back from this group of friends. Maybe your loved one or your friend starts abruptly canceling plans. So they don't tell you they're not going to come to volleyball anymore. They don't tell you they're not going to register for this session, but they say, oh, I can't make it tonight. Oh, I can't make it tonight. I can't make it today. I know we're supposed to hang out, but maybe next time. Life happens. Life gets in the way. But if that's a constant, right, that they're constantly canceling plans, they're constantly changing plans, maybe an indicator. Maybe your loved one starts dressing differently. They used to not wear makeup at all, and now they're wearing a ton of makeup. They're getting their hair done. They're dressing more feminine, or they're dressing down, right? There's a sudden shift in their appearance. Maybe your partner puts their needs before your loved one or before your loved ones, right? So it's not a 50-50, like I have to do what so-and-so wants me to do because it's just easier to go along with it because otherwise they're gonna yell and they're gonna, so like, I'm fine, don't worry about me. Frequent cuts or bruises or unexplainable injuries, right? So a bruise here versus a bruise on my hip because I ran into the door. That happens, right? Is your loved one a clumsy person, or are they showing up with marks around their neck, marks around their arm, marks that are hidden? They're wearing longer, jackets, not just because it's winter, or it's not winter yet. Hold, please. They're not wearing those clothes because it's colder outside. They're wearing those clothes to cover up. Maybe you all are hanging out at your friend's house, or your loved one's house, or your friend's over at your place, and you kind of notice that their partner's just sharing a lot of really hurtful, embarrassing stories about your partner, and your friend is upset about it, right? There are occasions we're going to share a story and joke and poke fun, as long as both people are comfortable and it's not the only stories they share, right? Maybe your aunt is super confident and has always been someone you've looked up to because they're just like, they exuberate joy, they exuberate confidence. And now they've started to become more insecure. They're asking more questions. They kind of have stepped into themselves a little bit. Maybe your loved one blames themselves for anything that goes wrong, right? Well, it's my fault that the cable got shut off. It's my fault that, they got in a car accident. It's my fault that I was late for work, whatever it is, right? We all need to take accountability and responsibility when we make mistakes, but it shouldn't be every single time that your cousin is taking the blame for their partner acting out. is taking the blame for them not being somewhere, is taking the blame, is taking the blame, is taking the blame, right? You are hanging out with your cousin again, and you are noticing that their partner is calling and texting and checking in, and like, just get off your phone. But not only are they calling constantly, checking in constantly, texting constantly, you kind of notice that your cousin's mood changes after they receive that call or text. They get a little down, they get a little like reluctant to go home, or, I need to go home right away. I'm really sorry. I know we're hanging out. Here's $10 for my drink. I gotta go. You notice that the relationship moves really quickly. Your little nephew has been dating, their partner for 3 months, and they're talking about moving in, or they've only been going out a couple weeks, and you notice they're already saying, I love you, right? Some relationships move quickly. I'm not here to tell folks what to do or not to do, but moving too quickly or moving at a pace that both partners are not comfortable with and are not enthusiastic about could be a red flag. Maybe it could be that you notice your friend is talking about how my partner seems too good to be true. They're being swept off their feet, right? They're knight in shining armor. They're a prince charming. Kind of an indicator, right? People are great. I hope everyone has a super supportive, loving relationship. But if something seems too good to be true, there's a likelihood that it's too good to be true. You notice that your friend's partner is super jealous, and makes accusations constantly, right? You all have to fill in the blank for, and accuses of what, right? Accuses of cheating, of lying, of whatever it is, right? But you start to notice jealousy is normal. Jealousy is not a bad emotion. But what happens in a healthy relationship is your friend and their partner are able to talk about their jealousy. And as the relationship grows, as the trust builds, that jealousy goes away. The jealousy fades. What happens in an unhealthy or abusive relationship is the jealousy grows and grows and grows. And that jealousy is used as an excuse for you no longer to see your friend anymore, for you no longer to see your partner anymore, for your friend or your loved one to become more isolated from their support system, right? Their partner doesn't take any responsibility. You all are hanging out. If you all have been to my training before, we're hanging out at a good happy hour. We're gonna pretend like it's August and it's 80 degrees outside and we're having a good time. And my friend's partner shows up and causes a scene, yells at the server, whatever it is. And they don't say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, that was so embarrassing. Maybe your friend does. And they say, oh, I'm so sorry, it was embarrassing. But their partner is blaming the server. Their partner is blaming the traffic. Their partner is blaming whatever, and not saying like, my bad, I messed up, right? They have a history of abusing others. This could be upfront, something you've heard through the grapevine. It could also be that they are blaming all of their relationship failures on their former partner. Well, my ex-partner is crazy. Well, so-and-so I dated, they're crazy, they're stupid, they're whatever it is, right? Now, some relationships don't work out. It's probably for the best. But if there is a history of saying that every single partner is crazy, red flag, right? You see that financial abuse, or your loved one never wants to talk about the relationship. You bring it up, right? We could talk about warning signs forever. What I want to say is that your friends, your loved ones, your family members best. If something feels off, have a conversation. They could just be having a bad day, a bad week, but have a conversation with them. Questions, comments, concerns, again, feel free to put things in the chat. If you all have something, let me know. I'm here, right, to help you all talk with friends and loved ones who are experiencing domestic violence, to know how to kind of be that support system. And so let's look at kind of a victim perspective. If someone is impacted or experiencing abuse, what does that look like, right? What we hear, or sometimes I guess what I've heard or what people think sometimes is, well, they enjoy, they kind of like that tug and pull and that angry, not angry, like of a relationship, right? Or they know what they're getting into. No. We all start dating the people that we date because they are good and there are things that we enjoy. and there are things that we like about our partners, right? Abusive partners are not abusive 100% of the time. There are good qualities about them. There are good partnership qualities about them. And the other thing that we have to really combat those myths is we are blaming the victim. Well, they knew what they were getting into. No, a victim is never, ever at fault for abuse. We have to put the accountability and we have to hold that abuser accountable for their actions, right? We also hear, well, they did something to provoke the abuse. Now, some of us have been told you have an attitude, you're kind of aggressive, right? I can have all the attitude in the world. I can be annoying or angry. That does not mean that I deserve to be abused. What it means is my partner needs to come to me and decide if this is the relationship for them, hold me accountable for my actions, but it is not a reason to be abused, right? Because what we know about victims is that it takes an average, and they just did this statistic again and it did not change. It takes an average of 7 times for someone to leave an abusive relationship. And I want us all to think about, you don't have to tell on yourselves, but think about when you were in high school, college, young 20s, whatever. There's probably a relationship that you look back now and you go, my bad, stayed a little too long, for whatever reason. This is not to shame anyone, but it's to put it in perspective that we've all been there, or we know someone who's been there. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean a victim's a bad person. There are reasons that people stay in relationships, and it is okay. Right? Because again, what we know, and y'all are going to hear me say this again, leaving an abusive relationship is the most dangerous time for a victim. What we have to really understand about victims is that I hear all the time, I want the abuse to end, not the relationship. I want my partner to stop what they're doing. I don't want to end the relationship. I want the abuse to end, not the relationship, right? Someone who's experiencing domestic violence is living in fear of their safety, right? Never really knowing when my partner's going to pop off, when my partner's going to get angry. So I'm living in constant fear. I'm living in constant, that walking on eggshells feeling, right? A victim may be experiencing feelings of guilt, shame, humiliation, embarrassment, right? I would never get into that relationship. Oh, those people, right? I would never. And now I am. I talked a lot of smack before, and so I don't know what to do. Or I feel guilt because maybe my friend said, we don't really like this guy. Like, we think you can do better. And I said, we don't know him. Any of those reasons a victim is probably feeling. A victim is likely isolated from friends, from family. Maybe they're working, maybe they're not. Because what happens is that isolation occurs over time, right? It's not, I'm dating someone new and now I never see my friends and family again, right? Now there's some balance. You have to figure out if you're dating someone new or you have a new partner, like, how do I balance friends and life and partner? That's normal. But what happens, and I use myself as an example all the time, is in the before times, pre-COVID, we're getting back into it, but in the before times, my girls and I would always go to Breakfast Club once a month. And so it's really easy to see that I'm at Breakfast Club every month and I'm no longer at Breakfast Club. It's a lot more difficult to see that I'm at Breakfast Club and my partner comes to me and says, hey, Megan, I know this weekend's a Breakfast Club. I had a really bad week. Can we just hang back and like watch scary movies because it's Halloween? And like, yeah, absolutely. If I'd had a really bad week, I would want my partner to like ditch his boys one night to hang out with me, right? Doesn't mean it's abusive, but it could be, right? Because what happens is missing that one Breakfast Club, and it's every 4, and then I miss every 3, and now I'm at every other, and now I'm at every 4th, and now I'm no longer coming. That is a much harder transition to see. I also want to say that we all have had a friend that's dating someone and we're like, see y'all when you break up. We've been there, right? A victim is living in constant fear. Maybe they have cultural or religious or other beliefs that an abuser is misusing or manipulating that reinforce staying, right? Maybe they went to the pastor and the pastor says, well, divorce is a sin, so you can't, right? And I want to be clear that an abuser is misrepresenting or misusing isn't the right word I want to say, but is misconstruing that religion, that culture to reinforce staying, right? They have a distrust of people. Maybe I tried to go to Megan and she was like, girl, I think you read that wrong. I don't know. You were kind of off that day too. So like, I think you misread the situation. I tried to reach out for help and no one believed me, right? Or involuntary involvement in the system. I tried to tell, my kid's teacher, and now DCFS is knocking at my door. Do you think I'm going to reach out again? No. A victim might also be experiencing health issues, both physically and mentally, right? And again, we have to recognize that there are many, many reasons why a victim might stay. Again, that fear, feeling of helplessness, children. I don't want my kids growing up in a single parent home, or I don't have the resources to be able to give my children or provide for my children. Denial, he was abused as a child, so this is normal, right? Language barriers, lack of a resource, economic dependence, loyalty, right? You all want me to leave my partner who was with me when my mom died, right? The most difficult point in my life. For you all, none of you were there for me when my mom died. My partner was, you weren't. So you all want me to, nah, I'm good. But isolation, and what we cannot dismiss is that love, that hope, and that optimism, right? And when someone is living in a state of constant stress, a state of constant fear, a lot of things go missing. Safety, control, predictability, maybe healthy coping skills, the ability to appropriately express feelings, right? There are a lot of things that go missing. And so what happens when we're helping someone leave or supporting them to figure out what it is that they want to do, we have to recognize and give space for our friends, for our loved ones to process their feelings and emotions. And one way to do that is through you all. A really strong, healthy support system is huge for a victim of domestic violence. We also have to consider many things when we want someone to just leave. Again, it's not that easy, right? They have to think about safety issues, threats, fear, shame, break that isolation, survivor strategies. And is anyone going to hold my abuser accountable, or is it just going to fall on me? So let's get into it. How can you all help? And again, please put in questions, comments, chats, or questions or comments in the chat. So what can you all do to help? How can you really support a loved one or someone who's experiencing abuse? The first and probably most important thing when we're listening to and supporting victims is it is not our responsibility to have all the answers, right? It's not our job to fix things. It is not our responsibility to make it better. What is our responsibility is to hear the questions, is to hear the concerns, is to hear the wishes that our sister, our brother, whoever has. Sit and listen. Because when we sit and we listen and we focus on what our friend, our loved one is saying, oftentimes we can help them find their own answers and their own solutions simply by listening. What is also so important for us to recognize as an advocate, as a sister, as a brother, as whatever our role is, we are helpers, we are not rescuers. And this is where it gets easier said than done. And I really want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that you all are allowed to set boundaries with your family members. You all are allowed to set boundaries with your friends. That doesn't mean we're cutting them off. That doesn't mean we're saying you're on your own. What it means is we're taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of our loved ones. So what does that look like? As a helper, we offer support when it is needed and asked for. And then we only give what is needed, right? We probably want to do and do and do and do and do. Sometimes that can cause harm, right? We are not giving assistance without asking, and we are not giving more than what is needed. And we're also not continuing to give and do for. I'm going to step back. My role as an advocate is to simply walk with someone. I'm not doing things for them. I've been doing this work for, let's just say, over 10 years. I have never in my life saved anyone. That is not my job. That is not my role. My job is to walk with someone, right? I'm a helping hand. Also, and this might be a little different if this is your sister, your cousin, your brother, your uncle. But we have to, with a certain level, again, of self-preservation, be a little detached, right? And that means we're like, we can help you when you help you. We can still feel, right? We still have feelings, but we have to give without expectation. So it's not, I'm going to have this conversation and I'm going to give them, meals or a ride or whatever it is, we can't expect to get something back. We don't know, right? We're giving without expectation. We're giving without knowing if or what we're going to get in return. We can't take things personally. Even if it's your best friend and she tells you to kick rocks or F off, this is hard, right? They're in a hard situation. So when that person tells us like, no, thank you, then we can't take it personally. It's not us. It's the situation that they are in, right? Because the moment we start to personalize what is not ours, the moment we start to feel bad that, you know, my sister isn't listening to me and all I'm doing is trying to help, we're going to inadvertently set up that wall, right? We're going to stop giving for, we're going to stop helping, right? We're going to kind of push our sister away. And that's not what we want to do, right? We are helpers. We are not rescuers. I also want to say boundaries are so important. And I found this super helpful. When we say no, when we set boundaries, we're not being rude, we're not being mean. What we're doing is we're modeling healthy relationships. We are modeling to our nephews, our nieces, whoever, that you can set your boundaries. We are modeling how to say no. We're not saying no, F off. We're saying, I can't do that right now, but here's what I can do. Saying no, setting boundaries is not a bad thing, right? And so I found that that's kind of helpful to do a little bit of a reframe. Saying no, setting boundaries is modeling healthy relationships for our loved ones or for whoever it is that we're working with, right? So having informed conversations. So this is going to be like you all are doing this work now before you're having that conversation with your auntie. Never blame the victim. You all are at family dinner and your sister didn't come and you're super concerned. So you're having a conversation with your family, with your mom, your dad, and your brother, whoever it is. Really being mindful that when you're having that conversation to help your sister, that you're not blaming her for getting in this relationship, right? Here's what she told me. Here's what she asked for help. How can we have conversations and vent and have a healthy frustration, right? You're allowed to feel frustrated that your sister is in this situation, but how can we shift it away from placing the blame on her? Are we doing what we can to hold the abuser accountable? Maybe, you know, your best friend and your other best friend are dating, and best friend number 2 is the one who's being abusive. Are you only having conversations with the victim? Or are you also having conversations with the abuser about, hey, you can't do this. You are not going to be allowed in my home if you treat your partner XYZ. Have you talked to anyone? Have you gone to therapy yourself? Not together, not couples therapy. No. But what are you doing, right? You say, oh, I'm so sorry I hit him. Oh, I'm so sorry I yelled at my partner. Cool, you're sorry. Now what are you doing to change it so that doesn't happen again? Are we calling out those unhealthy behaviors that, the holidays are just around the corner? Are we saying, hey, I just saw you grab your partner. Not cool. You don't have to say it that way, but right, are we holding the abuser accountable? We also, when we're having conversations, right, and during Domestic Violence Awareness Month is a great time to do it, that domestic violence is an intersectional issue, right? While domestic violence is rooted in power and control, my lived experience as a straight, white, cisgendered girl from the country is with quite a few privileges, right? And I have to recognize that. If I were to experience domestic violence, it's going to be different than the domestic violence someone else experiences, right? I might face sexism, but I'm not going to be facing homophobia in systems. I'm not going to be facing transphobia in systems. I'm not going to be facing racism in systems. So we're acknowledging and having those conversations, right? Maybe not with your friend right now. They might be too much. But when we're talking with our support systems, when we're challenging systems, are we having those conversations as well? Are we challenging widely held perceptions? Y'all are at brunch and Veronica doesn't come to brunch again. And you're like, here she goes again. Like, she should just leave. I don't know why she doesn't leave. Like, that man is no good, da-da-da-da-da. There are a lot of reasons that Veronica might not be leaving that relationship. And we cannot blame our friends because we have to go to the very core that domestic violence abuse is rooted in power and control. And so Veronica might really want to come to brunch, but is it worth coming to brunch and then going home and getting yelled at Or is it just like, I'm going to keep the peace today, right? We have to trust the survivor's perspective. This is easier said than done, right? You're having a great conversation and then your friend says, oh, I'm going to go home. And you're like, you want to scream into the universe, right? It happens all the time. But we have to listen to, right? Going back to that very first slide under how to help. We don't have to have all the answers, but we have to listen, right? We can also, a great way to start a conversation is question how the media portrays DV, right? If y'all ever want to have a happy hour, I am very good at bringing down the mood and having these conversations about pop stars and athletes and etc. But you can say like, hey, I was watching this show and tell me what you think about this, right? When we hear a news story break, what are our initial conversations? What are our initial reactions? Really knowing that domestic violence is not a private family matter, right? Rooting our conversations in equity and equality. And then remember, you all hear, right? Because domestic violence doesn't just impact a victim. It impacts you as a friend. It impacts you as a loved one. It impacts coworkers, students, teachers. It impacts everyone. So how can you help? You're having these conversations with your friends, your family members, your support systems. What can you do? Make time. Start a conversation. Hey, Sarah, I noticed that you were in a brunch the other day. Like, what's up? Where are you at? What's going on? Listen without judgment. Learn those warning signs, right? We gave you a very, very brief, go to our website, take in more information, reach out, trust your gut. We can validate those victims' feelings. Hey, Janice, I hear you. I might understand right now, but you're allowed to feel sad and angry and annoyed and all of the above. You're allowed to feel your feelings, right? And if you can, and if you feel comfortable, help form a safety plan or refer to a helpline. Hey, have you thought about calling that like 391 help number? I think they can probably help you safety plan, whatever, and tell you what to do, but we can help plan for safer. When we're listening and giving our full attention. We're not also like looking at that bird climbing up the tree and trying to get into my house, right? We're not also on our phones, texting whoever. We are actively and fully engaged in what this person is telling us. We are believing what we are being told, right? In that moment when someone is sharing with you, you are believing what that you are being told. You're not like, oh no. If you need to investigate, my job's not to investigate. I'm an advocate. I don't have to do any of that. If for whatever reason you feel the need to investigate or look at more, do it away from the victim. While the victim is talking, we are believing, we are being supportive. We are acknowledging, Brandy, I'll get to your question, it's a good question. We are acknowledging and we are providing unconditional positive support. We're acknowledging that they're in a very scary and difficult situation. We're reminding them the abuse is not their fault, right? Can you provide resources? Hey, I was on this webinar thing with this Megan girl, and I think she said something about a helpline. If you don't know the answer, you can say, I don't know, right? You should say, I don't know. If you don't know the answer, don't make it up. When we're starting conversation, start on a positive note. Hey, Brandy, I missed you at brunch the other day. What's going on? Like, how are you? Making sure that we're keeping the conversation friendly, not preachy. We're not saying, girl, you need to leave. Like, that man is no good. We're focusing on those unhealthy behaviors. We're not saying your man is trash. You gotta go. We're saying, I really don't like how so-and-so talks to you. Hey, does your partner I feel like they make fun of you a lot. Are you cool with that? Like focusing on behaviors. Because what happens, even if we're grown, even if whatever, think about like those, teenager that says like, you can't date so-and-so anymore. Are they gonna stop dating so-and-so? No, they're gonna keep dating their person. They're just not gonna tell you about it anymore, right? We have to allow our loved ones to make their own decisions, right? We can't, even if we mean well, even if we say from the kindness to the bottom of our hearts, but the moment we start telling our friend what to do, we are unintentionally taking away that victim's ability to make their own choices. And we're doing the same thing that abuser was doing. Offer potential solutions, right? We're not saying what to do, but hey, I heard this thing about a protection order. Hey, have you thought about calling the helpline? Hey, would you be able to stay with your mom? Hey, would you be able to stay with me? We have to expect more conversations in the future. This is not a one and done. This is not a like, hey, yo, cool, you're leaving. All right, good, I'm out. This could be a long process, right? It takes an average of 7 times. So this could be conversation, a conversation, a conversation, which goes back to you're allowed to set boundaries. You can say to your friend, I love you. I care about you. I want to hear you talk about your relationship, but you've got 30 minutes and then I need to take a break. You can say those things, right? And then follow your friend's pace or your family member's pace. We're not pushing them. If they say, I don't want to talk about it, cool. We'll talk about it in a couple weeks. We'll talk about it tomorrow, right? We're not giving our friends ultimatums. Like, well, if you don't want to talk about it, or if you're not breaking up with this person, then you're not invited to Thanksgiving. What we're doing is we're isolating them further. And an abuser can say, see, Megan, I invited you from Thanksgiving. Told you she's not a real friend. Told you she's kind of a jerk, right? We're playing into that isolation if we give someone an ultimatum or we cut them off. So Brandy asked, I want to answer this question. So what is your advice on this new trending name, intimate partner violence and domestic violence assistance or support arenas? So it's the same-ish. Intimate partner violence, I feel like, is really kind of, I want to say it's like the next phase in the movement, if you will, right? It used to be called, the battered women's movement, and then it changed to domestic violence. And now we're seeing this kind of trend towards intimate partner violence. I think part of it is really when we say intimate partner violence instead of domestic violence, we're really hyper focusing on intimate partners. When we're talking about domestic violence, and when we talk about domestic violence, it's the same thing, right? We're really talking about it from a lens of intimate partners, but more broadly, it can include cousins, mom, dad, brother, sister. So it's the same-ish, most of the same. Does that make sense? Thank you, Brandy, for the question. So how to help, right? Other things you all can do or say. Any conversation that you have with your loved one should be outside the presence of their partner. You're not doing it at their home for a number of reasons. You don't know if their partner has monitoring. You don't know if their partner is watching them from the Ring camera in the living room. You don't know if their partner is monitoring their phone, right? Having those conversations. Do you feel safe to talk on your phone? Do you feel safe to talk in the living room? Hey, leave your phone in here. And we're talking away from that partner so that that victim, your friend, your family member feels safe. Ask if they would like to talk. If they say no, you have to respect their boundaries. Telling your friend that they deserve a healthy, nonviolent relationship. You can encourage your friend to do activities outside. Hey, I know you haven't played volleyball in a while. Come join us. You have to be on the team, but come sub with come start over. Come sub for us sometime. We really could use a sub tonight. Do you want to join? If they in the relationship, if they stay in the relationship, if they're back and forth, continue to support them, right? We have to acknowledge that even when a relationship ends, our friends are grieving. We grieve healthy relationships. Why wouldn't we grieve unhealthy relationships? Who are you sending memes to, right? I'm going to send duck memes on Instagram to my partner all the time. If for whatever reason, I no longer have him to send duck memes to, who's going to be my duck videos, right? Who am I going to share that with? That's grief. We have to allow our friends, our family members to grieve. We have to know and acknowledge that abuse is not just physical. We have to stay in touch. Don't underestimate the power of friendship, of connection. We can simply send a text and say, hey, what do you need today? How are you? We also, in the same vein, can let our friends know that we're concerned. Hey, I noticed that you haven't been around as much anymore. Are you good? I miss you. Where are you? I'm concerned about you. We can 100% say that, and we should say that, right? We're not saying you have to leave. We're saying, I'm concerned. You haven't been around as much. Encourage small steps. Hey, have you talked to anybody? Hey, have you called a helpline? Right? And encourage them to practice self-care, and you practice self-care as well. Stay connected any way you can. Send a text. Hey, thinking of you. Hey, I'm telling on myself again. Hey, saw this funny duck picture. Just wanted to pass it along. Can you set up a weekly, monthly phone call, coffee date, something to stay connected? Can you drop off a meal or a treat or a toy? Hey, I saw this, toy and I really thought the dogs would appreciate it or your kid would appreciate it. Hey, I'm gonna go, it's the last bit of warm weather. I'm gonna head out to, the metro parks. Do you want to go for a walk? Send a little note. Share resources like this webinar, like our helpline, right? What we do not want to do is bash the abuser. Again, focus on the behavior, not the person, not the personality. We don't ever want to blame the victim. We don't want to underestimate the potential danger for the victim or ourselves, right? So if your friend is moving out, is it safe for you to help them move? Or, is it safer to hire someone? Is it safer to call and get a police escort? Now, the police aren't going to stay for long, right? But can you go and get those really important documents? Do not make any promises that you cannot keep. Do not say we'll be there for you all the time if I will not be there all the time. A good example of this is, call me anytime, but then my friend calls me at midnight and I'm snoring next to the dogs. I unintentionally broke a promise. Hey, call me anytime. If I don't answer the phone, I will call you back as soon as I can. Hey, call me anytime, but I need you to know, I'm in bed at 10:30. So if you call after that, you're probably gonna get my voicemail. Leave me a voicemail, I'll call you back tomorrow. Don't do anything that's gonna provoke the abuser. This is really hard when it comes to family. Your family member tells you something, and now you're like, oh, bet, it's on. I'm gonna go confront the abuser. I'm gonna yell at them. My dad's gonna beat him up. We mean well, but we could put that victim in more harm, right? Also, don't give up. Be patient and practice self-care. This is a long process. Finding the right time, right? We set away from the abuser, away from people and distractions. Not do it in a coffee shop where someone might overhear. Let's go for a walk. Make sure that your friend feels comfortable both physically and emotionally. Be prepared to listen and be prepared for what you might hear. You might think I'm ready, I'm going to go do this. And your friend says, yeah, and then my partner pulled a gun on me. And you're like, what? We have to kind of hold our emotions and our reactions in check, because the moment we go, what? Right? We have a very visceral reaction. Our friend's going to kind of, oh, that was bad. I didn't think that was bad. They thought that was bad. No, yeah, right? We have to be able to kind of prepare ourselves. Be willing to share your own experiences with limitations, right? The moment we share our own experiences becomes about us instead of about our loved one. So we can share while keeping the focus on our victim. Sometimes sharing is the best thing we can do, but we have to be really careful and mindful about what we're doing and when we're doing it, right? And don't try to fix everything. Again, we are helpers. We are not rescuers. Leaving that door open. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it 7 more times in the next 11 minutes. Even if you have a relationship with this person, they have to build trust, because they've been hearing from their abusive partner, Megan's the worst, Megan doesn't really like you, Megan's trying to blah, blah, blah. So they have to build trust that you're not going to go through the grapevine or at brunch, tell everybody your business. And now, Sam told me something and I'm talking about it at brunch, and now John's going to Sam and saying, oh my God, are you okay? Megan told me. If someone tells us something in confidence, we have to keep it in confidence, right? And then get support again when you need it. Questions you can ask. Hey, notice, does your partner embarrass you? And we were all hanging out and they seem to share a lot of embarrassing stories. Do they embarrass you in front of others a lot? Hey, Megan, you just got this really great promotion at work, whatever it is. They didn't seem too thrilled. Do they belittle your accomplishments all the time? I feel like you're kind of always on your toes. Does your partner I feel like they constantly contradict themselves. Tell me more about that. Who makes financial decisions, right? Who uses do they use financials against you? Who makes the decisions in your relationships, right? Does your partner intimidate you a lot? Tell me about your partner's anger. Do they seem to get angry for no reason? Are they unpredictable? Does your partner make you feel safe? Do you feel safe disagreeing with your partner? Do you feel safe bringing something uncomfortable up? You're allowed to argue. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have a conversation. but you have to feel safe. If you're avoiding a conversation because you don't feel safe, that's a problem. You can say things like, you're not alone. I believe you. We can say things like, I am concerned for your safety. I love you so much. I don't want to see anything bad happen to you. And I'm afraid. I'm going to be here. I'm going to support your decisions, but I need you to know I have some real concerns. I'm really sorry this happened to you. You're not going crazy. It's okay for you to feel sad the relationship is over and happy that the relationship's over. It might not make sense. It doesn't need to. You're okay. You're allowed to feel both. We have to remember that we cannot take away someone's pain. I think so often we want to just like make things better and do everything. That's not our job. We have to feel our feelings, even if they are bad or negative emotions. We have to allow people to work through and process their feelings. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me. You deserve to be happy and healthy. Things might never be the same, but like they can be, you deserve happiness. They can be better. We can ask questions like, hey, do you think that if you like helped your partner or change or do you think, excuse me, if you like changed yourself or just did a couple things differently in the relationship, like your relationship would be better? How often do you spend your time, like just hypothetically, of course, right? How often do you spend your time trying, not to make your partner angry? Tell me, do you do what your partner says a lot just kind of to avoid confrontation or because you're afraid? What would happen if you left, right? Obviously, your partner would be super sad because you're amazing, you're wonderful, and you're like, whatever. How would your partner react if you left? Hypothetically, of course. What we don't want to say is, you're lucky that your situation's not that bad. My situation, girl, let me tell you. No, we don't want to say I understand. We don't. We might have been in a similar situation and we can empathize, we can hear, we can acknowledge their feelings, but we don't understand. Everything will be all right. Don't worry. We don't know that everything will be all right. So we can't say that. You'll get over it. I mean, time does heal most things, but like you'll get over it. It's super dismissive, right? And then I just leave this one always at the phone. Calm down, right? Like then more people do the exact opposite of calming down. You said all these things. You've done all these things. You have what feels like an amazing conversation. What do, right? You feel like you said everything, you went through my list, you right? And the conversation's going nowhere. It's okay to stop and try again, right? We have to, but just bringing it up. Hey, I noticed. Hey, I love you. Hey, you deserve. That can help a victim. That can help a friend, a family member start to think, oh, other people are noticing. Other people aren't okay with this. Okay. Bring it up later. If you do not know the answer to something, do not make it up. You can say, you know what? I don't know. Let's look it up though. Let's Google it right now. Or you know what? Let me do some research. And when we hang out, next week when we grab coffee, I'll let you know. Or hey, you know what? I don't know, but I think this helpline, they might have the answers. If you do not know, do not make it up. Your friend discloses something and you're like, I don't know what to do. I was expecting them to say that their partner yelled a lot and that, they didn't really like, they got hit a couple times. I was not expecting for them to say that, their partner strangled them and choked them and pulled a gun. Like, you can say like, that was really hard to hear. I'm really sorry you experienced that. I'm afraid for you. Can I take some time to kind of process this and can we check in tomorrow? Can I give you a call tomorrow? Right? Remember, you are allowed as a friend, as a loved one to pause and say like, right? And I'm not doing this as an advocate, but I'm doing this as a friend. I'm doing this as a loved one and saying like, can we come back to this? Can we schedule a time to talk? This makes me really sad. This makes me really afraid. And I just need a minute, right? Maybe you're having a conversation and you kind of realize like, oh, my partner does these things too, or I think I might need to reevaluate some things, or someone has this conversation with you, right? You don't have to have it all figured out to help someone else. It's always a process. Relationships are a process. You're allowed to kind of pause and take time. And remember, Journey Center is here for you, for your friends, for your family members, for your loved ones, right? And so with that, we have just about 5 minutes left. I wanted to leave space, questions, comments, concerns. I want to acknowledge that this is a lot of information, right, in a very short period of time. And so questions, comments, concerns, things I didn't address. I will be sending a follow-up email with our toolkit and other information that has some of this information. And also you all then will have my contact information. I'm probably not going to be the right person, but I can connect you to whoever that person might be. So allowing space for questions. Thanks, Janice. With that, I will sit here and wait for folks, but I just want to know it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you all for being here. Not only is it DVAM, it is our week of action. So if you have not yet and you want to, follow us on social media and you can send a message to a survivor. We're going to be pushing those out later in the month, just letting someone know that you are here for them. Tomorrow is Wellness Wednesday, so we're really focusing on self-care, taking time. Thursday is Purple Thursday, so take a very cute selfie, tag us on social media, we will share it, and just starting that conversation. Like, Megan, why are you wearing purple? You always wear black. What's happening here? Oh, I'm wearing purple to, bring awareness, to start conversations. Friday is our Friday Facts. So if you, again, are not following us, we're sharing a video every Friday about one aspect, really trying to bring some educational pieces. And then Speak Up Saturday, really encouraging folks to have a conversation with at least one person in your life. Use this webinar as an example. Hey, I was watching this webinar with this Megan and she said XYZ. What do you think about that? If you want to learn more, we are halfway through DVAM and our daily action calendar, but you all can join us on Facebook. Really reading articles on Mondays, watching something on Wednesdays. Again, really just trying to promote that education and that. Yes, Christine, we are recording this. So I will put this up on our YouTube this week. If I say this week, then I have to do it this week. Yes, and I will also be sending out a follow-up email with our toolkit and with additional resources. Also, if you want, you can scan that fancy QR code, follow us on social media, sign up for our newsletters. We have not only a newsletter, but if you all want to get more involved in calls to action, awareness months, more information about training, that's a really good way to stay involved. But yeah, thanks, Christine. Thanks, Amy. Good to see your name at least. But thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking part in our week of action. And I hope to see you all at future training. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jazz. Oh, I see. Brandy, so do you have supports around survivors being triggered? I would really encourage you to reach out to a therapist. I'm not a therapist. That's not, my, hold on, I'm gonna pause this really quick.